There are 6 specific decisions that Joe Biden made either as vice president or president that are very concerning to us, that we believe could potentially lead back to payments that were made to these LLCs that were then laundered down to the Biden family members.
A very serious charge from House Oversight Committee Chairman Congressman James Comer speaking with me last Sunday on this program on what his committee has uncovered so far in their investigation into the Biden family's business dealings and influence peddling. On Wednesday, attorneys for Hunter Biden met with officials from the Justice Department amid an ongoing criminal investigation that began in 2018 into the first son's taxes and a purchase of a gun. Meanwhile, Biden has been ordered to appear in an Arkansas courtroom tomorrow for a hearing into his ongoing paternity case involving his 4-year-old daughter, who he so far will not acknowledge. Joining me right now with more on all of this is Wisconsin Republican Senator Ron Johnson. He was first in investigating the Biden family business deals in the Senate, along with Senator Chuck Grassley back in 2018. Senator, it's great to see you. Thanks very much for being here this morning.
Good morning, Maria.
Your investigation into Hunter Biden and his business dealings began when? Because I want to get into the Antony Blinken situation now that we heard from John Ratcliffe. Right. But your investigation began when? 2018 or even earlier than that?
Really focusing on the Bidens, probably the tail end of 2019 and then into 2020, where, of course, we had the pandemic outbreak, so that didn't make things easier. You know, quite honestly, I didn't have the full support of my committee or the conference to subpoena the Bidens. They thought it was too political.
Right.
So, you know, they were professing their innocence. So we invited all of them to come in and testify to proclaim their innocence. What is interesting, Maria, and here's a little news for you. Antony Blinken finally did come in and sit down for a voluntary transcribed interview in December of 2020 because he wanted to be Secretary of State. And now, because of more information that's come out, we know that he lied bold-faced to Congress about never emailing Hunter Biden. My guess is he told a bunch of other lies that hopefully we'll be able to bring him and his wife back in, tell them to preserve their records. You cannot trust Joe Biden. You cannot trust Hunter Biden. You can't trust the Biden family. You can't trust so many of the people that they have surrounded themselves with. I mean, these made men. I basically agree with that statement.
Yeah, I mean, that was
here's the problem, Maria.
Words.
What do you do when you have, in effect, co-conspirators of the Biden family inside the agencies, inside our intelligence agencies, the Department of Justice, the FBI, and you have the political party, the Democrats, who couldn't care less, have no interest whatsoever in the corruption that is being uncovered bit by bit as we pull back the layers of the onion here, as we peel them back.
So just to be clear, you just said you believe Antony Blinken lied to you under oath.
Yes, he did. He said he did not email Hunter Biden, and now we have those emails. We also know that his wife, using her private email address when she was a employee of the State Department, was basically a conduit between her husband and Hunter Biden as well. So again, I think there's so much more to uncover here. There's so much more investigation. He needs to be subpoenaed. I don't have that subpoena power. He ought to come in just voluntarily if he wants to proclaim his innocence. I doubt he'll do that, but he must and she must preserve their records, their personal emails. We need to get to the bottom of this. We need to show how corrupt these individuals are.
Well, I mean, I'm wondering where this stands in terms of James Comer's investigation in the House. You just told us that Antony Blinken committed a felony lying under oath to the Senate.
Well, hopefully that James Comer does have those subpoenas. We're working with those folks as well. So we'll turn over, certainly our transcript. We'll make that public next week. And, again, there's a lot of truth that has to be uncovered here yet that's being covered up by the deep state. Let's face it. The deep state knows what it did. These co-conspirators inside the agencies, they know exactly what they did. They don't give up their secrets very easily. They know how to hide things. They know how to slow roll everybody.
And that is why this keeps happening and people do not trust any of these federal agencies. The media has also just taken the word from these agencies and run with it, and all of this goes viral, and it ultimately misleads the American people. We learned that through the Twitter files.
Well, here's another example. So Eric Schwer, and a business associate of Hunter Biden, emails him in early 2017, says, hey, Hunter, you didn't report $400,000 of your Burisma income. It isn't until October 2021 where Hunter Biden, I guess, writes a check somewhere around $2 million to pay off his back taxes and penalties. That $2 million came as a loan from his West Coast attorney, who now we know is the managing director of the business that held Hunter's 10% stake in BHR Partners, which he said he divested himself of. So, again, we don't know what these folks are doing. I mean, it is sleazy, it is corrupt, they're dishonest, and unfortunately, the media is complicit. They're co-conspirators right along with the rest of the folks.
Well, it's really amazing to me that we keep seeing this happen, given the enormous threat that is communist China. I mean, Joe Biden walked into the White House, and the first thing he does is he makes it harder for Congress to access the suspicious activity reports. Finally now, James Comer and his team has been able to go to the Treasury and view those suspicious activity reports to actually indicate the amount of money that the Biden family has taken in from communist China. The other thing that Joe Biden did was he came in and he canceled the Trump initiative, the China initiative, which was actually indicting people who were complicit, accepting money from the Chinese Communist Party for selling intellectual property here. It's very tough to not ask the question of whether or not Joe Biden is compromised. And yet, this week, he acts as if nothing is going on. He announces a re-election campaign.
Well, Maria, Senator Grassley and I had those records through 2019, okay? And we laid out the vast web of financial transactions. We showed millions of dollars. What James Comer is able to do is he's getting new records from 2020 and forward. So the Bidens, think of this, the Bidens knew they were under investigation by the Justice Department and by Congress in 2019, and yet they continued their grifts. And more Biden family members took part of the grifts. That's how brazen they were. That's how confident they were that their co-conspirators inside the agencies, inside the media, would continue to cover up for them, not cover these stories like they didn't cover Senator Grassley's and my report of September 2020. If they had covered that, if they had covered the laptop, Joe Biden would not be president, and our country wouldn't be down this path of destruction that his administration has put us on.
Well, I mean, the policies speak for themselves. They are having a negative impact on American families, and American families are reacting, saying we don't approve of the way he's handling the economy. We don't want him to run again. And yet, I guess the gravy train, they wanted to keep on going. Do you believe that there is influence peddling underway right now as a sitting president?
My guess, I mean, Hunter is certainly selling his art, right? Again, they haven't come clean. They haven't been honest. The media hasn't held them into account. Now Joe Biden wants to finish the job. What? What job? Destroying America? Because that's what path he's put this country on. It is scandalous. This is a sleazy family. They're a corrupt family. They need to be held accountable.
What's your take on Susan Rice deciding to leave the White House the day before Joe Biden announces his re-election campaign? Why would she step down the day before he announces his re-election campaign?
I don't have any greater insight. I think, as Senator Cruz said, it just might be rats fleeing the ship.
Yeah. Well, we'll see, because you would think that he would want the support of the Democrat Party. She is an Obama confidant for sure. So we're going to be watching that story. Senator, you said you're going to release that information next week on Antony Blinken and him lying to you. What else should we look forward to in terms of your investigation and making those things public? When?
Well, again, we'll make those transcripts of his interview with us public so people can see exactly how he lied to Congress. And again, we will request interviews. We'll certainly send them a letter to preserve their records, their personal emails, their personal texts. We want to find out exactly what they were doing with Hunter Biden in 2015 and 2016. Remember, Hunter joined the board in 2014. Antony Blinken became Deputy Secretary of State at the tail end of 2014. Well, I think he was confirmed in 2015.
Wow.
He knew all of this stuff.
Right.
He denied knowing any of it.
Senator,
and he obviously was aware of this.
Yeah, we will keep watching it. Thanks very much. Great to see you this morning, Senator. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.